recording. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, and we're doing session 2 of 3 on CHCCDE019. So this is a development unit. Our role as youth workers is we may run a program. We may offer a program for young people. You might be part of it, but you want to be ready for it. So it's a fairly, well, it is a little complex, but we can overcomplicate it for ourselves. If you've ever been to a program or you've ever watched a program in your community, every time you get like little athletics or a little sporting thing, or someone runs a raffle, that's a program. They start out with, we need a something, so they have a name, and then we have, this is what it would look like if it went really well, and then what do we need to make happen around that, and then how are we going to pitch that to the people who give us the funding, and then how do we deliver it in the community. And we need to bring other people into this space to be able to get some feedback of what that's like. So tonight there's going to be, even though we're in a virtual classroom, we are going to be in a space where we'll do a bit of brainstorming, and then I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms and you're going to come up with a hypothetical program. Okay, so there's a couple of things. You need to have an agenda, and the agenda is for the meeting to be able to get started. And then you've got a couple of scenarios for your role plays. So just taking away that scary stuff of role plays, I want to unpack all of that for you. If you've done a role play with me, you'll know they are not a formal process. I'm not marking anything other than what you're going to be like to work with as a youth worker. So, okay, I'll just do a bit of Houston sound control here. I love it. Okay, so incredible. So let's start at the beginning, always a really good place to start. So I appreciate that everyone's working from home. I do too. And sometimes they're definitely not interruptions, but it is colourful. So we'll get everybody to drop in to chat what your check-in number is. I'm actually a solid 8. I made some progress. I'm still behind schedule, but I feel as if we're actually making some progress, and it's only Tuesday, so it's looking up. So just drop in between 1 and 10 how you're feeling. Just remember, if you put in 10, you're running the class tonight, and I get to sit back and enjoy your good company. But yeah, please just drop in how you're traveling. Also keep an eye on our other people, your peers who are your colleagues in the workspace. If you see someone checking in and it's not great, go really gently in that space, okay? So this is how we care for each other, and then how we care for ourselves as well. So a little bit about how we're traveling now in our space. I'm just going to share my screen. Like I'm taking you back to the beginning, I am, because I still need to do our regular acknowledgement to country. Geez, okay, now I've got everybody, which is great. And I just want to take us straight back. We'll do a quick summary about where we've been. So the unit we are doing, for those of you who like to do your assessments actually while we're in class, please go ahead and do that, which is great. But our acknowledgement to country is always our hey to welcome. So I apologise, I'll pop everyone over there, like we put baby in the corner. Okay, that's great. So our acknowledgement to country is, just pop here. I'll do that tonight for us. So we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we work, study and live, and pay our respects to elders past, present and future. We at Hayter celebrate the stories, culture and traditions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of all communities who also work and live on this land, which has never been ceded. Just a little bit of housekeeping for us as well. So just to make sure that everyone is okay. So cameras on, please, so that we know that you're okay. Though I do understand for not only your bandwidth, but also for those of you who need to manage yourself, or if you've got something going on behind the scenes that you know could not really be recorded and you don't want that to go out to other learners. If you're feeling triggered at all by any of our conversation, then please remember that after class, you can call 13 11 14, which is Lifeline, and 13 Yarn, which is our First Nation call centre. So for any of our learners, if you're struggling and you're feeling that anxiety start to creep up around deadlines or feeling a little overwhelmed, just know that both of those numbers, 1300, 13 11 14 with Lifeline and 13 Yarn, both of them are very used to working with students on how to plan, look after yourself. But you've also got great support in our housekeeping. I like to bring this up. You can schedule a one-on-one with your trainer or with any other trainer through our booking system. Please use that. Every learner gets 1 hour a month of coaching and support from a trainer at Hayter. And if you'd like to make that 30 minutes each fortnight, you absolutely can. And then, of course, role plays are different and on top of that. So going into our unit, our requirements around this. This is where we're up to. Community development framework for youth workers might feel like it's a really odd kind of a unit, but it isn't when I unpack it for you. So what is meant by community? We did that last week. We talked about what community means to us. Then we have a look at community development. So that means that we've identified things that are missing in the community and we are going to fill the gap, hypothetically, as a learner. So if you had a magic wand and unlimited funds, then you could run a program. It's like, this is what I think. Now, what I want to do is just talk about here, if you are a person with a lived experience, you may have something that's really, really close to your heart that you want to do, whatever your why is. But a development program can be something as simple as you go to a school in a lunch break. They have a lot of youth workers come in and do guest speaking work. You can volunteer with an organisation and be part of that as well. But at one of our local high schools, I run a toolbox talk at lunchtimes. If I'm available, I'll go on the circuit with other youth workers and we'll talk about. So I talk about what it's like when you're going to leave home. Nothing like what you thought. So you'll be broke. No one's going to respect your rights. No one's going to, as in your right to apply for accommodation or put in an application for a rental. It doesn't mean that you won't be a good tenant, but what does it mean? It just means that you don't have a positive rental history yet. So I'm just letting some learners in. Sorry, that black line always pops up when that's happening. So that's a toolbox talk. You know, what do you need ahead of time? It's at least 2,000 to get into a place by the time you get ironing board and irons and things like that, unless you're moving in somewhere. Rent is not free. So what is considered reasonable rent for a young person? They're the sort of things that I might talk to. So it's tough because as a youth worker, you're actually working with young people. They may be in receipt of a Centrelink payment, or they may be in receipt of Austudy, up certainly over 22, if they're a student somewhere. But the pay isn't great when you're under a certain age. So there's no consideration for, oh, I'm young, I'm on a lower income, my rent will be cheaper. It is not. It's the same. My power bill, also the same. My rego for my car, also my same. So there's a lot of things that just day-to-day living expenses with limited access to meet those costs that other people have a higher income. So the difference is about 300 a fortnight on youth allowance to someone who is an adult payment. So we are working with young people who have got to live on about $40 a day. And that's actually not easy for them to do. So with that $40 a day, a lot of our young people will do things, and this is where it circles back to our program, will do things like, oh, well, I want to be able to rent. And if the rent says it's like, even in our program, the communication that we will have around in a toolbox talk is, well, rent's $175 a week. That includes power, gas, lawns get mowed for you. And they're going, lawns mowed? Well, I don't know who used to mow lawns, but yep, there's a person that comes in and mows the lawn if you're not doing it yourself. And then from there, they have to buy their own food. But in our program, and this is what we're talking about, is community development frameworks around programs that meet the needs of young people in our community and fill the gaps, is that everybody gets an extra $160 a fortnight in our program because it's recognised as a program to help young people get a positive rental history. So every single young person, every single room gets that extra a fortnight, which brings their rent back down to $80 a week. Now, that is affordable accommodation. So that means they're getting a positive rental history and they're able to do that and squirrel a little money aside and still be able to get a job. And that will not affect or impact what their payment is. So it's really important. So usually if you go in, and so some people go, oh, I'm moving in with my mate. Well, you'll only get half of that rent assistance. Whereas in a program, every single person in every single one of our 7 rooms is entitled to the full rent assistance payment. So that makes a huge difference for young people while they are trying to get a positive rental history. So that program is called Responsible Me. Now, that just is, we're going to teach you how to be a great tenant, how to pass inspections, how to do an application. 5 real estates in our town collaborated with us, and 5 real estates in our town will take a reference from our program. So that means we've already done the intro for them. If they get a reference from our program, not everybody does, but if they've earned it, then they know that that young person has paid their rent, can pass an inspection, has a good understanding that there's no neighbourhood fatigue, that it's not party central, and no meth lab can be set up in your bedroom. Okay. What else do we want from a good tenant? Okay. So young people just starting out are learning those things, and it's walking distance to the shops, budgeting. So a lot of young people on $40 a day will have a look at that and go, well, it's cheaper for me to buy fast food. Another program, we have a chef come in and they say, this is how you shop on a week for $50, and here is how we prepare the meals. So we provide some funds for that, and the chef volunteers and all the young people get into the kitchen, and then all the meals are done and thrown in the deep freezer so they can zap them in the microwave. So at least somewhere in there, there's spag bowl, there's lasagna, there's actually pies, there's bacon egg pies, there's all sorts of munchy kind of food that growing young people really like, oh, I really want something. It relies on a trust system as well, so that, you know, people are in a share house. If you're sharing, then it's cheaper, but you also don't have any of that extra. So everyone might have their own room, but it's shared bathrooms, 7-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, and you've got to split the chores. You've got to, there is nobody there to take the bins out. You've got to do it. There is nobody there that's going to sweep and mop the floor. You've got to do it. So these are the things, independent living skills, but it's helpful to go in and do a program on what to expect when you first leave home, or what to expect when you go to uni, or what to expect when you move in with your mates, or what to expect if you go into a youth refuge and they say, okay, well, you're on this roster and this roster. So the difference with the youth refuge is that there's a curfew and it finishes at 10 o'clock at night. You must be in meaningful engagement between 9 and 4 p.m. These are all youth programs. These are to help young people get safe, affordable accommodation. Even in a refuge, you still must pay rent. It's $210 a fortnight. But you can't just sit around the refuge during the day. You must between 9 and 4 either be at school or belong to another program. What are those programs? Get Set for Work is a program. So you as a youth worker might be in an organisation that runs a program. For the sake of this one, this is about you designing a program that you would like to do. So a program could look like, I don't know, we'll throw it out to the team. We will get rid of that. I'll get rid of share. And we'll throw it back up into the wider group before we jump to that space. So it's good. Thanks, everybody. We've got some people who are joining us just a little later. I've had some apologies. I'll be in class tonight at 7 and things like that. So I wanted to get started. Just know that when you're popping into a breakout room later, just know that if you've got someone that hasn't been here the first part of the class, and we run a virtual classroom, this is not online learning, it's online assessment, but a virtual classroom is it's your space, as if we were all in the same room together. So it's very experiential. So if you're actually sitting in this space and someone arrives a little later, open up the circle, bring them into the group, and just get them up to speed if that's what they need. This is what we do when we're in the workplace with our peers. Can you share the link for the assessment? Still trying to figure out my way around the portal. Actually, you've got your own link rather than doing that. Lindsay, can I put in my email address so for you? Have you emailed me yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, well.
Yeah, because I keep I go into it and it says in progress, and then there's the reading materials, resources, and assessments, and sometimes I've pressed it and it's gone it won't open that page, there's an error or something. So I'm a bit, yeah.
So this is what I would love for you to do, Lindsay. If you
Yep.
could email me, I'll link you with our tech guru.
Yep, beautiful. Thank you.
We will solve the problem together.
Thank you.
Thank you for thinking I know enough about tech too, by the way.
So, you do a pretty good job. So
I'm an intuitive person. It's like if our star signs align, the devices will get on with me today. No
yeah.
worries. Okay.
Thank you.
Happy to help. You please reach out.
Well.
So when we're in this space, what I want to do now is just get a bit of an idea. And you can throw it into chat if you don't feel comfortable talking. But I want to know what you're walking around with this particular unit thinking, what program, if I was going to run a program. Now, I know that 2 of the learners in this particular group, and they may or may not be with us tonight, are actually going to be running an education awareness, a safe space program for survivors of domestic and family violence. And just in the meantime, so there's a whole lot of court stuff that happens in there, but it's to look after the parent, to look after the children, which of course are always trauma bonded as victim survivors because they've grown up. And often if you stay in that same place, our young people are actually living at the scene of a crime. We think about how trauma affected they may be. Let me just, I think everybody is in.
Quiet.
Could I just really kindly ask if everybody would be able to just turn their mics off, just in case I pick up some background noise, if that's okay. Yeah, so I don't know, give me some ideas. Where are you going to go with this, with your program? Lindsay?
I guess I would like to go with the support systems that sometimes aren't there. With family, sometimes that they don't get, taught things that they need for the big bad world. And I would have liked to have known a few key things when I was younger going into it. So hindsight's a wonderful thing. So I think I'd like to, early intervention and education is the key. So be that family support kind of area that they might not have.
Okay, I like that. So
I don't really know yet, but that's just what,
that's great. A seed of an idea usually lets you explore. So some stepping off points in the formula. So Lindsay's saying, fill a gap, supports early intervention and individual living skills. So those daily ones are really valuable. Lindsay, I think last week you shared maybe change tires and things like that. Was that you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I don't know if it was me, but it definitely is something that I would have said. Yeah. And
Right.
just
Yeah.
yeah, things like that. That would
Okay. I
yeah.
love it. All right. So that's great. Anybody else got an idea that they're playing with at the moment that they think they might do for their program? Program for young parents under 18s. Love that. How to navigate this, help connect them with other people in their situation. I love that, Sophie. I'll tell you who runs a great program, Save the Children. And they called it the Babysitters Club. However, it was an early intervention program, and they went to the school and did something along those lines of people who would most likely disengage from school early and start a family early. I don't know how you measure that or how you identify that, but you know, wanting to break free, wanting to get out, have their own life, having a family, all those sorts of things seem to be part of those milestones that they're super keen and ready to just jump out there and do it. I think I'd run something for autism that would have really helped me if I knew when I was younger. Me too, Emma. So yep, absolutely. I think that would be great. Knowing your rights too, by the way, like I know that we learn about discrimination and making sure that we are mindful in that space. I've got 2 people in my weight room. Sorry, I just really need to make sure that everybody's got an opportunity. Hoping everybody's coming in. Okay, I've got nobody in the weight room. I think we're good. Yeah, but you know, like we don't say to people with English as a second language, oh, I don't understand a word you're saying. We don't say that. Okay, that's actually unlawful. It's discrimination, sits under human rights. However, each and every day, people will say, I don't get what you mean if you're ASD and ADHD. And yet, really, that also is unlawful and discriminatory. So it's about knowing that the differences. So when you read more about ASD and ADHD or anyone in the neurodivergent tribe, there's a lot called the originals. There's actually, oh, I'm in my office, but this one's written by Adam Grant. And this particular book here, yep, try and get it on my camera. This is tricky. Okay, every now and again I can do this. But the book is called The Original. It's kind of got like a little rainbow spiral there. You saw a glimpse of it. But this is actually a book about how to make change happen using studies and stories, but it's about neurodivergence. There's a lot about neurodivergence that sit in LinkedIn as well, even businesses, and now actually being somebody that employers are targeting to add to their team because there is a different way, a different lens. And so we see lots of other things. Can't be what I can't see. And so now that is all being modeled in the workplace. But yeah, that would have been really good to help understand around that. So skills and resources. So Kim, you're thinking living skills, day to day?
Sorry, yeah, I meant to put in independent living skills, but
Independent skills.
the independents got a bit too independent and got left out. So
Okay, all right. Yeah,
okay.
I understand that. They got ahead and we didn't capture them before they left. Brilliant. Rochelle.
Hi guys, hi Vicky.
Hey.
I'd probably be going down the road of well, in my case it would be like AOD, like a support group meeting for siblings.
Hey.
Yep. But you could go down that road with anything really, mental health. Yeah, sometimes it's hard for the siblings to, depending on age and what have you, but manage the situation and get some support there. So definitely, yeah, a peer support group for siblings. You know, of someone who's going through either, you know, AOD, mental health, anything along those sort of lines.
Oh, thank you. So AOD, mental health, siblings, the ripple effect of someone in the family with a disorder. So we identify that substance misuse is a mental health issue. We do not separate it. So the entry could often be a risk-taking party fun kind of thing to do, but the affect can actually have a physical and a mental health effect. So which ends up being out of that person's control of what they originally had thought. So it's very social initially, but then the connection is based around it. And then, of course, it's addictive, the same as nicotine is addictive, the same as some vaping and the breath work around that, all addictive type behaviors and learned. So, but to stay connected to social circles, a lot of young people will do that. So, like I live in Queensland and we have Harold the giraffe, which goes into our schools and talks about healthy bodies and that for primary school kids, but there's nothing in high schools. It's starting to come into high schools, but there really is nothing. However, every single kid who went through life education with Harold the giraffe that I've worked with in the AOD space will go, oh yeah, we had Harold come. So at primary school, it made no difference. And it doesn't touch on anything other than healthy eating and what's good and what's not good, that kind of thing. But yeah, we could do one based on drug and alcohol. Absolutely. So there's some fun kind of ones, if that's the right word, where you put on beer goggles. There's actually resources you can put them on and you can't walk. So it's like, here's the goggles you put on after one drink, here's the goggles you put on after two, here's 3, 4, and then try and get people to do that activity impacted by something that is stopping them from functioning at high level. Even fatigue. So if you're a gamer and you're hooked, because that's your dopamine fix, then you're loving the lights, you're loving all the other things that go with it, but you stay on it and you're in the alpha brain frequency at that time. That's what's happening for young people and for adults. And there is no time and space when you are in the alpha brain frequency, which means hours will go by. And people will go, I can't believe I've been on this thing all day. Like, where did that go? In that brain frequency, there is no time and space. So it's also your genius side where all things open up, which means you are very programmable in that state of mind, very influenced. Up until the age of 8, all young people are in alpha. So when you say to a kid, don't slam that door, the only thing they hear is slam the door. But if you say, please close that door gently, they'll go, ugh, and then just before go. So we can program, it's all learned behavior. So it's in our language influences. But when we're working with young people up to the age of 16, 17, they are still 80% in alpha. So we've got a lot of space to be able to deprogram and reprogram. So we talk to them about it, not like, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go, did you know? And would you find it interesting? And what would be the words? So what do we say when we talk to ourselves? So you'll come in through with those independent living skills, which are great, the practical stuff, or the emotional supports around young people who are experiencing something as well. So I think it really your program is, how are you going to then bring it back into a snapshot where it's a plan? How long is your program going to last for? So here is your framework: who, what, how, when, where, and why. Because the people who are going to come to your program, let me just let some people in. Okay. I am going to just stop recording for a moment and just see if I can bring some people in. Before we do that, I'll jump out and I'll grab them. I'm going to throw everybody into, and I just speak virtually when I say I'm going to throw you. I'm going to pop you into a breakout room, and I want you to bounce around and brainstorm. Every person just make a commitment around what your program might be like. And here is your framework. I want you to think about this. This is your critical analysis. Okay. Who it's going to be for, give me their ages. What are you going to deliver? At the moment, it's a seed of an idea. How are you going to deliver that face to face or Zoom? When? I'm going to do it every Wednesday between 12 and 1, or I'm going to do it on weekends, or I'm going to do it on school holidays, or I'm going to, the where I'll go to a place where the kids are rather than have all the kids come to me. So much easier. And then why are you doing it? Super, super important. Now, in this role play, your employer, after you pitch your idea, absolutely love it. And they're going to go, I'm going to fund it for $5,000. That's going to be your budget. Okay, so now you know what you've got to work with. Has anyone had issues with using headphones for Zoom and knows how to fix it? I don't, but thank you for asking me. So Ty, can you hear us? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. Could we go there?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I just like my headphones work with everything else on the computer but Zoom. So it keeps playing through and I can't really hear.
Okay, I think
What
it
you're
goes
saying.
back to your actual Zoom setting itself originally, but I'm going to throw everybody into a breakout room. I just want you to know before you go in there, it doesn't have to be the one that you're doing for your assessment, but just start with something. Just step out there, commit to something in a discussion, plant it. You've got the right to change your mind. So, so Ty, I'm not sure. I think it is your Zoom setup. Even if you need to jump out, reset it and jump back in again. As soon as I work out how to get people out of the weight room, I'll bring you back in, mate. Okay, breakout rooms. We've got a big group tonight, so I won't make it too big a group. And see how we go. Please just accept entry into the room. There'll be about 4 or 5 of you. We'll be back in 15 minutes. So not too much time to procrastinate in there. Just jump in, make a commitment, who, what, how, when, where, and why, and you've got 5,000. Just stop recording. So welcome back, everybody. So just going back a little bit on what our framework was, we had to go into our breakout room. We needed to identify who was our target group, our demographic and our psychographic, which is that emotional, social emotional well-being. And then what was our program going to be about? How were we going to deliver that, like face-to-face, or is it a booklet we send and people work on it? When were we going to run that? It could be on the weekends. It could be school holidays. It could be, it could be go in and do a toolbox talk when schools are open. But there's a lot of young people who aren't at school, and how do we get into that space? Why are we doing it? Super important. And this is what you've got to be able to do for your program. So you've got to know that, because you've got to write it. Anyone would like to work on role plays, my email is. Thanks, Lucy. Okay, so I'm doing there. And Lindsay's comfortable giving consent. So as long as everybody knows when you pop that up there that you're giving consent in that space. Mine is not to tell you you can and you cannot. It's just to check in beforehand. So thank you. And thanks so much, Ali, for doing that, because I love to see in action those professional boundaries and practice standards in there. So let's have a look. There were a few groups. I think there were 5, and then there were some people who arrived a little later. Thanks for opening up the circle and giving them a chance to join you. But can I hear from just some of the groups who was able to come up with a program? Sorry, let me just. Right. A TV program in the background. Can I just ask everybody, unless you're actually speaking, to turn your mic off? That would be Amazing. For some reason, it just doesn't want to do that. Hold on a second. All right. I am the only one talking. All right, Vicky, away you go. All right. So what's some ideas we've got?
Yep, I'll speak on behalf of my group. I had Sophie and Ashton in my group.
Okay, great.
So the two ones I had was local kids to get involved in local sports, so football probably, because in under 13s and under 15s, it can be quite daunting for kids when you go out for pre-season, like the first lot of training, there could be 40 to 50 kids out there. And a lot of kids would find that very daunting and want to give footy a go, but too scared to go out with that many kids. So I'd like to set up a little program where you have maximum of 10 kids that aren't involved in the local footy club at the time, but would like to try that and, give them a go on that. So, and whether they like it, they might not think they're good enough or whatever. So, or my other one was cooking classes for young kids as well. Love my cooking. So something along those lines as well. And we had another one, I think it was Ashton. Do you want me to speak or are you right speaking?
Yeah, I can speak. Thank you. I was just thinking I know they ran like a program when I was younger in the community for like local graffiti artists to be able to, so like the council like donated like buildings or like walls or like tunnels that we had around the area. And then we had like some local artists who volunteered and came in so the kids could like do their graffiti and their art legally. And then it also like helps them like build connections with artists and like other people in the community to find like avenues to like pursue their art legally and like not get in trouble, obviously. So yeah.
Love it. Lawful expression, but still graffiti. So that is a medium of art, that does get used. And there are some people who are booked professionally from that. So great idea, really expressive, but do it in a positive way. So, and then the collaboration you'd need to make that happen, which of course is what this assessment is about, is like, who else are you going to bring in to that space to be able to run it on time, on budget, in a positive way, with all the workplace health and safety legislations, all that kind of stuff in there. Like you can imagine, like they lock up spray cans. So there's going to be another way of doing it as well. So good point. Anybody else got an idea? Who's still studying?
Well, I'll speak. I can't remember what the names were of the other people in my group, but we were kind of coming up with a week-to-week program that targets from year 7 to 12. So they've got the peer and like just anyone welcome, because and there was suggestions of 1 week going fishing, 1 week going camping, kind of changing it up. And offering like that peer support in between those activities, because with alcohol and drugs and mental health for teenagers and sex particularly, that it's part of their developmental age to try new things, and and they're going to want to do it. So kind of maybe risk management and like harm minimization when it comes to the risk-taking behavior that teenagers like to do. And so kind of we didn't really get all the questions on this, but that was kind of our focus, was a bit of everything, if that makes
Love that. So you're recognizing and acknowledging that they're the years that risk-taking type behaviors happen, but you're doing it in a safe, supported, supervised framework. And you're giving them that adventure they're kind of looking for. It's like, and
particularly too, because teenagers, when they see adults, they don't don't really want to be a part of it. But if we can kind of be that gap between parent and friend somehow, and there might be a young girl that's having trouble with a sex related question that you could kind of take off privately and talk to, and then over here teaching them how to fish and go camping, like ever changing kind of was our focus, kind of thing.
Yeah, and a lot of those programs have slipped away too over the years, Lindsay.
Because of all the the do's and don'ts now in the industry as well. Sometimes
right.
You've
Yeah,
got to
it's
sometimes go
great.
behind the lines a little bit.
Yeah,
Mm.
I do think that if you've created a safe, supported, supervised framework, then any day-to-day conversation would be okay. You're modeling appropriate behavior,
Yeah,
working inside the guidelines. But things like family planning, they stopped bringing them into the school
yeah,
because it was like, well, too much education. And I'm thinking,
yeah. But
maybe
and you don't
not.
seek out doctors, and you don't when you're young, and you don't want to talk to your parents about the nitty gritties of your stuff. So yeah, being that person in between to go, well, you got to, this is
Yeah.
a situation where you do need to go to the doctor, or this is a situation where we got to do this. And yeah, basically
I
that's
love
where we'll
that.
be heading.
Building community bridges. Yeah, this is great. So you're also going to have to name your program.
Yeah.
Give it something when we get that. But I really like where you're headed with that. Great. Sophie, tell us about your program.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think you've already mentioned mine. I put mine in the chat. Was the program for young parents, so under 18s, that yeah, helping them to sort of connect with other people, because it can be quite an isolating time.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a child, but especially if you're a very young parent. I just had a quick question as well. If we email you, can we connect with people like in the group? So instead of putting our email address on there, can like I email you and say, oh, do you
Absolutely.
pass my email to such and such? Or yeah, okay, great.
Everybody uses my email, and you
Yeah.
come to me. And what I start to do is I drop in my calendar. I've got a wait list of people who are looking, and then
Yep.
I do matchmake.
Cool.
It's great. So I can go, yeah, how many people do you want? So if I had 4, then you got 2 groups of 2, but you do need people to be able to do your presentation with, and a problem shared is a whole lot easier to work on. So I love that. But if you've got friends and family, please go ahead and do that. But if you contact me, which is Vicky, so it's VIKI, at hayderinstitute.edu.au. But you don't have to do it with someone in class, but it strengthens the idea. So I did a one-on-one with 2 from this class last week, straight after class, the very next day, I believe. And then they were both able to be, when they're ready, they will book in their role play, they will do their presentation, and I will assess them separately. So they just have to swap that around. So you're not losing anything by working with somebody. You get measured independently. Okay,
Great,
so
thank you.
if you are working on the same project together, what I'm going to do is say, so now break down and show me which role you did, which role you did. Absolutely, we can do it like that. Okay, so I find it's good to work collaboratively and give it some context. So, but the other person, even though we might have like a really clear on my idea, another person can put things in there that you may have missed, or they'll be looking through another lens and you go, yeah, you're right, it's like that. Or how am I going to reach the people who don't really know? So everybody brings something into that space. Any others? So thank you so much, Sophie. But yeah, please email me. So I'm interested in being on a list for the role play for CHCCDE019. Anything different to that?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
My group and I were thinking about something to do with young children, possibly primary schools, or like early intervention, like childcare, pre-prep age, maybe to grade 1s, well, preps to grade 1s even, focusing on body parts, and being private.
Love that. Yeah. So, like, I mean, they hear about stranger danger, but that doesn't have anything. When you talk about the body, that's amazing, because when a young child is sexually assaulted, the very first thing they do is they have big butcher paper, lay it on the floor, and they draw an outline. They get the child to lie down and draw an outline of that child's body. So they start with hands, lots of safety, and then, okay, now lie down. And then they do all of that. And then when they start that intentional interviewing question, it is, what part of the body did someone touch that made you feel happy? And who would that be? And then what part of your body? And that's how they get a young person to disclose.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's really powerful, Danny. Yeah, like appropriate. A great resource is Hetty Johnson's Brave Hearts.
Bravehearts. Yep.
Braveheart, yeah. She's done a lot of work. Now, their family were survivors. It was a grandparent that sexually assaulted her daughter. And she started that organisation based on awareness. She also got the database for tattooed sex offenders that a lot of young people can't think of a description, but a tattoo can be recognised. And so then the police started to build a tattoo database, not to zero in on people, but other than it's like, actually, that's the third time that tattoo has been described, to look for patterns. Okay, so they identify. So a picture, children can talk in pictures, and that's a really valuable source. Rochelle, something to add for this group as well?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like something Lindsay said before about the sex education. Touching on that, like something about consent maybe, because a lot of kids don't know, well, it's starting off with, respectful relationships, but the consent part of it, I think, is a massive thing as well. Unfortunately, some kids just aren't taught about what's appropriate and what's not. But
and what's weird and what's not, like what's weird in that interaction in the set, like, what's how they feel in that situation too, like, there's weirdness that happens,
Yeah.
It's about sorry for jumping in.
No, that's all right, all good. At the particular school I work at, which is a high school, sex education they're learning about in year 8 and 9, and unfortunately that's a little bit too late these days. I think, being age appropriate, obviously, but grade 5 and 6, they should probably start having those conversations at school with their health teachers, because by the time they get to us in year 7, some kids have already had sex, and with or without consent. So I don't know who changes those rules, but I think these days year 8's way too late to be learning about consent and sex education, unfortunately.
Rochelle, I appreciate your input. So I've got SME there as subject matter expert, because that's Rochelle's bringing her knowledge into our space amongst all of us. But it's about body awareness as well, sex ed and consent. And this is for both parties in there. Like, what signal are you giving me? Is that a yes, let's go, or is that not? So it's about, how do I say no? And if I heard no, is that no, but a little bit more effort? Like, it's for everybody. It's not just for one person in that space.
Can I jump in here for a second, please?
Yeah, sure.
So I work with primary school age kids every day, and we have taught them about consent. Like, we're working on consent with them at a young age, but we are also, the thing I'm finding difficult is teaching them when is an appropriate way appropriate time to talk about something. We had a bunch of nearly high school kids, boys, sitting with us, and a girl was mucking around, and she kept using the term vagina in front of her, and that is not a big deal, but when you think about it, it is to the children, because while she's using the correct term, she's also forcing what she is saying on the other children. It is a big thing teaching them when's an appropriate time to talk about certain things, because you can't just run around saying inappropriate things. While it is important to teach the children about this, it is very important to teach them that there is a time and a place to talk about these things.
Yep.
And
Thanks.
yeah.
So jumping in there, I think Emma's raised a really good point. You may start a group, and then what have I created, and how do I contain it and put it back in the box as well? So we can think of the great things about our program, but we've also got to look at the risk management and your duty of care. So as youth workers, there's a lot of responsibilities for us to do that. So yes, the vision and the passion. Amy, yeah, please add.
Yeah, as Emma said, like, you know, she was forcing what she was going through on the little kids. It's just that you've got to say certain things that doesn't sound inappropriate. Because mind you, these kids are still young. They don't know like the full term or the full thing of sex. And they're gonna go back to their parents and say what you said to them, and their parents are probably gonna be like, how do you know that already at such a young age? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yeah. So there's a lot of duty of care in that space, isn't there, as well? How do we frame it? Age appropriate is how we're going to do that. And to do that, you need a bit of research. What would be considered? So I think Braveheart, when we're talking about sex and sexual assault and date rape and things like that, depending on the age that you're doing
because
that.
you don't want to teach someone who's an 11-year-old something that you should be teaching an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So very important to know our target group, and also every child develops and matures differently at different stages. Absolutely. So, so is that our role as a youth worker? And I think Amy, you're touching on this, is like, there's only so deep we can go into that space, but we could bring a subject matter expert in who could talk about that, and they would know that. So as youth workers, we may have, like, I hear Lachlan say, well, I'm great, you know, like I love sport and I love cooking. I could combine those. Like, here's a, you know, like a get fit pack. Here's protein does this to your body, and then carbs do this to your body. Like, learning about the food, which we do not learn about. And the only people who end up getting really devotees in this space are usually people who are much older, who are trying to reverse age or reverse some of those things. I wish I'd known this earlier, but if you knew what food did, and food as a fuel, and how that works for your brain and things like that as well, I think that's an incredible way to go. Healthy body, healthy mind. And I also know that when we're working in the social emotional space that Emma and Amy have touched on, is there is a responsibility when we're going into these areas. So we don't do that.
I'm sorry, can I jump in again?
Can I just leave it for a sec? I just want to finish what I'm saying, because I'm framing it around how to do your role play. I'm straight with you, Emma. So when you're running your program and you're starting to design your program, you are asked to collaborate. And so you will be collaborating with people outside of you. Now, when you're doing the role play as learners with Hader, you're going to have to go to the internet and do some research. So Danny, I mentioned Braveheart. Somebody else I mentioned Save the Children. They already have existing programs. So if you do a bit of a search around it, you'll find it, regardless of what you want to talk about, a subject matter expert that you can refer to. You don't have to deliver that. So you can just give people the links. So Emma, something to add to program?
Well, it's to add on the healthy eating thing. We are going through at school a lot of children being diagnosed with ADHD, things like that, and we are also trying to teach them that it's okay. Some medications can make you gain weight. I have bipolar, and I can tell you right now, when I upped my medication because it wasn't working, I gained 20 kilos. And we are going through that with a lot of the kids that are learning about taking medication and how it can change your body. And it's not to be, while we need to work on that, it's not to be ashamed if you're weight or you start breaking out or you have all these issues because you're on this new medication, and putting it in a positive light that it is really important that they take this medication because it is going to the positives outweigh the negatives. And I feel that is a thing for a teenager as well, because when I was a teenager, like I've been medicated for different things since I was 12. When I was 13, I was put on antidepressants, and that made me gain weight as well. And I was actually bullied for gaining weight. So we're trying to teach the kids that is positive to that side as well as being healthy and all of that.
Love that. So positive body image would be how we would frame that if we're doing it. What we won't do is talk about what we don't know about. Just keep in mind that with this particular assessment, it's non-clinical work. You're not a clinical worker. What you can do is bring in a subject matter expert who can speak about that as a guest speaker. So with CHCCDE019, it is Community Development Framework to meet the gap. So you've got to do some research now. You've got to identify in your local government area. So that will come under stats, data, under LGA, local government area, and then also ABS, which is Australian Bureau of Statistics. And that's the data, and it gets updated all the time, but usually it's the census that happens every 3 or 4 years or something like that, where someone comes around. They used to give you a form. Now we can actually do it online. I think it crashed the internet. The whole site went for a couple of days. Supposed to capture all this information, who's in your home, yada, 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 what's your faith, all those sorts of things. But now you have to validate why you're doing that program. So let's just say, Lachlan, I hope you don't mind, I'm not spotlighting you, but I just want to take Lachlan's idea just as a concept. So Lachlan's going to have a look at, in his local government area, how many young people there are 10 to 15 years of age. So what's my pool that I would be approaching? And then what sports, what percentage of sports are people playing in town? Or how do I capture the ones who aren't playing, who would like an introduction to it, but they felt too awkward or unco, or and not quite sure how to get started? Is money a barrier? Keep in mind that your boss at First Access loved your idea so much that Llewellyn decided to give you $5,000, Lachlan. So you could go, wow, that's a lot of footballs and some jerseys. I only want a group of 10. It's a pilot project. It could pay me as the coordinator. So I might do 10 weeks. And it's going to be 2 hours each week. And I'll take $200. So that's a big slice of your funding. But if you think that that's reasonable, that for 2 hours there's $200, and that's you don't get paid for all the planning and time and everything that you put into it, but definitely from the moment you turn up. You could also put a gold coin donation so that you make sure that you've got drinks. You could go to a supermarket who just say, hey, this is a program we're running. I'm just wondering if you'd be good enough to donate drinks for our group, appropriate drinks, healthy drinks for people as well. And then you might have a screen printing place around town that goes, yep, that's terrific. We'd like our image on it to say it's, like our local screen printer is amazing here, Tracker screen printing, so we can take it to Tracker, and they'll go, we'll do you really good price. Some people go out of town. I like to shop locally myself because I think it makes a difference, and I think people tell our story as well. So it's kind of our promotion and marketing and connection that way. But you want to have the branding around it so people get used to it. So the name that you choose is very important as well. What are you going to call it? So one of the best programs, and I love where Amy's headed with hers, was it was that I heard about, and I'd love to give it a kickstart again, was it was called In the Meantime. And in the meantime, where do you go? In the meantime, what do you do? and it kind of filled a gap. Now, it was more for adults and it was for people who were struggling with mental health issues. But where did they go in the meantime when they weren't in the mental health unit, when they weren't incarcerated, when they weren't lining up at Centrelink and doing those things? That social isolation was definitely there. So they just went and played cards, you know, different groups came in. We have services that would drop people off in busloads, but it got to this stage where we were actually ticking boxes for other organizations and they weren't staying and contributing. They were just thinking, oh, here's a really great idea. We'll just go and take our clients there, drop them there, and away we go. That isn't a good collaborating project. So you want to put some boundaries in there. So we often will design, you might too. What I'm looking for in your assessment work is, did you have a memorandum of understanding? That's formal. Or did you have a DOI, a declaration of intent? That means that us as partners will, and we won't do this. And if it goes wrong, this is how we'll manage it. That if you don't plan for this beforehand, then you've got no strategy if something goes wrong. Who's our first aid person? Oh, well, we'll get St. John Zambos to jump into that space. Here's Daisy joining us now. So that was really great. Thank you so much, everyone. Hey, Daisy. We've just been spending the first part of our session. Most were in a breakout room. We're talking about our assessment, how we're going to collaboratively build a program that's development and meets some gaps, unmet needs. We will get our data.
You.
Yeah, you're right. So welcome. So our local data. So I know I could go into the Bundaberg Regional Council and I could look up how many young people are there living in our local regional area, which is 150 kilometres. It spans 3 postcodes, 4670, 4671, 4660. Know your region. Okay, so I'm in a regional rural area in Queensland, so it's pretty easy to get the word out here, but we don't have a local paper anymore. They stopped it. They bought them all up. One particular media company bought them all up, 28 regional papers across Queensland, and then shut them down. So that's all fully controlled. Now, our newspaper, local newspaper, connected us to community, and we don't have that anymore. So now we've got to go to places like ABC Radio or go into the schools themselves. So know how you're going to get your message out there. How are you going to talk about it? But Lachlan, if you talk too much, then you'll have thousands turn up and you only want 10. And that's it. Enroll 10 and that's it. Not like pick and choose 10. The first 10 that turn up, because it's a seed program, you want to get it started, everyone welcome, all inclusive. Okay, because there's more to that. Like you said, it's about, I don't quite know how to kind of work. Like I think my son went to soccer for years and they never even scored. Like they were only little, they looked like little swarms across the field, and then they didn't do scores. Like it didn't matter if you kicked it in the different goalposts for the other team. It was like, yay, everyone screamed and raved, and it was great. But he played Tiggy on the field with his best mate, like after school at practice, and I'm thinking, okay, so soccer's it, but ended up being, you know, a Wide Bay rep and all of that. But it was just about connection, fun, building your confidence, and I really liked how that went. And then they kind of find their thing, you know, it goes from soccer, which is football, I think, and then to futsal in between seasons, and then to whatever. But that community connection is big. In regional towns, that's how most people get a job. Only 17.5% of jobs come from job network agencies. The rest is word of mouth or advertised on a screen, but mostly it's word of mouth, or I saw a poster in a window. That's what rural regional places like. I think even in cities, it is like that. I was born in Sydney, but I'm connected to country. But I really think word of mouth is important. So you start this one thing and then people talk about it. And then next time you run the program, you got 2 groups of 10. And then and then those first 10 that came in, they are peer support. for the new ones coming in. This is how it works. This is what it's like. So then you develop leadership and management skills. And then kids helping kids, and that's the work that you do as a youth worker. So it starts out one way, but it ends up being something else. And all you're doing is facilitating an idea to get it together, but you want people from in that group to take ownership of it, and it's safe and supported and supervised. They're the three most important things any youth program that you run: safe, supported, supervised. You've got to satisfy those parents or those carers or those guardians that what you're doing is actually monitored very safely. You've got to have your blue card. You've got to have your you're working with children check. You've got to be able to demonstrate and show that. These are the things that you've got to be able to put into your program. I have this. This is what we did. What's our checklist? Workplace health and safety. What's our insurance? You work for First Access. Hypothetically, they have all of those things. But a place might say, like a council, say, we're going to give you this park. We're going to let you practice there, but we need to see a copy of your certificate of currency. Now, that certificate of currency covers you and excludes them from any responsibility. So it's often referred to as a COC. I can't run anything for council unless I produce my COC. So that means that $20 million of public liability is included in my insurance. That's what community development programs have. Then we have, professional indemnity is also often what's involved. And Lachlan, that's what protects you against any parent saying this happened and you're going, it absolutely didn't. I strongly recommend that you always have another person with you. So our workers do not drive our clients to places. If they have another person with them, they can, but we have policies and procedures. So hypothetically, First Access, you will have policies and procedures. Okay, so why do we do that? It's just that I need to look after my workers. I don't want a conversation where there is no witness. And look, and it's a policy that we've put in. A lot of orgs don't, but we put it in there because I have a lot of male workers and we have a lot of mixed gender clients, and I have a lot of female workers and I have a lot of mixed gender clients, and I have a lot of mixed gender workers and I have a lot of mixed gender clients. So for me, I just need to make sure that everyone is protected in that space if they're on their own. They will meet a young person at Centrelink or they will meet them at the shopping centre, but they won't transport them there. So you need people to get there, but a great way to do that is budget in for a maxi taxi. So see if the taxi company will come on board as a sponsor. I'm a professional beggar when I'm running programs. I'm always asking. And so we're pretty broke. I'm just wondering, could you meet us halfway and donate? So then you do sponsorship in kind. Now, when you do your budget, you have to do all your line items for this assessment piece. Okay, so I've got, it's 5 minutes and I really want to give you a 10-minute break as well, just to be able to decompress and stretch your legs and walk. And then we'll come back. How is this feeling at the moment, though, for everyone? Are we starting to get an idea of what your assessment is about? You're going to do a presentation. That's your videoed role play. So you can do this as a couple of people together. You can check in and do it with us and book that in if that's what you would like. Helen and I will do weekend work. We will be your audience. And we will assess you in real time if you would like that. But if you need a one-on-one and there's a few of you and you go, I think we've got an idea, want to run it past Vicky, let's grab her for 30 minutes. When does that work? Book it in. Not this Saturday, I'm booked, but definitely Saturdays and Sundays I do take. Just all you need is 30 minutes, just book in and I'll unpack it for you, send you a Zoom link of your own. We can record it so that you can play it back and go, oh yeah, here's what we were talking about as well. And then the same when you do your role play, we're able to do that for you. So what we don't do when you're independent learners, which you all are, is we don't say to you, if there's a role play that says you need a group for this, or this has got to be done in front of your trainer assessor, we don't call you. You have to say, hey, Vicky, I'm ready, because everybody is at a different stage. And we don't say, hey, it's time to do it. But if you email us and say, I'm interested and can I get some people, 100%, we will take your email and go, yep, soonest one. Here's 3 options. Which one suits you best? And we'll try and do one in the day, one at night, and one on a weekend, so that you've got some choices there if you're working or you've got unusual times. We won't lock it in where it's this and only this for you. Okay, so, but I always like it if you send me an email, then I get a feel for when it suits people, when's a good time for you as well. That's why we open up the Saturdays and Sundays, is because we know that we have to have some flexibility. But if it says this has to be done in real time in front of your assessor's waiting for you. And it might be me, or it might be another trainer assessor as well that does it, because we can all assess you, because we have what we call an observation checklist. So what I'm running through for you tonight in this class is, I'm telling you what it is that I'm going to mark you on. So if you frame it around who, what, how, when, where, and why, and when it says the word collaborate, then who did you bring in, who are subject matter experts, or where did you get your information to collaborate and bring it in to build your program? Okay, or could you take kids to a movie that's showing, or like I know when Eminem did his movie, we took a lot of young people at risk to that as well, because it's a kid on the street who turned his life around, and expressed himself through language, and it was really amazing. And I loved it. I'm a bit of an Eminem fan myself, but I'm also a 70s rock band girl. So, and I know you're all jealous because I have the best music in the 70s. And Kim knows what I'm talking about, Kim. But music connects young people, definitely. And you can reach out, like In Excess and all those boys, like met them in the 80s when we were working in that space. Just amazing. If you ask, you go to their tour manager and you go to their website and say, hey, we're running a kids program and we want to be able to play your songs in the background. It's courtesy. And you know what? Heaps of times they've sent t-shirts up to our programs as well. Kids love it. So Angry Anderson, same thing. You know, super keen to give you t-shirts, but he wants t-shirts back, because we often do, everyone design something and here's your thing for graduation, then we give a t-shirt to them as well, like this is what we had. So really super important to collaborate in the community and like bring them in, and then make sure that you acknowledge them out. That's what community development work is all about. So we can't come up with the idea ourselves. It has to come from young people. So anybody that you can, ask anybody that knows a young person in that target group, think about what that might be like, and then try and ask them a few questions. I'm thinking about doing this. What would be great about this, and what would suck about this? Like, what wouldn't you come to? Get that as well. Make sure that you hit that mark, and it isn't just something that we think. So when we talk about nothing about me without me, this is what it looks like. So we're putting it into practice, but you're doing it as a youth worker. Okay, let's take a break. Let's come back at 7:40. Let's take 10 minutes. Is that okay? Or would you like 15? I push everybody. I'm sorry. Is 10 okay? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, brilliant. Let's take 10-minute break. I'll stop recording. We'll come straight back into our virtual class, and we'll get to work on the role play scenarios that also sit with this particular unit. Terrific. Oh, well, we've got 60 seconds before we jump in. So everyone ready? We'll do our last stretch of this. I'd like to do a bit of screen sharing as well. Let's just unpack what this looks like. We've talked about the concept, the ideas. We need to be social, emotional, economic well-being. That's where you get your local government data from, and your Australian Bureau of Statistics data. So pretty much we should be able to jump in and do a search on your local government area. Yeah, so rap or rap music. Love it, Kim. Thank you. So you have to do a document that looks like a program, and you might go, it's a 12-week program, so you've got to have it week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. It might be, though, that you need 16 weeks on this. So it's the promotion, the marketing. The best way to start talking about a program is 6 weeks before you deliver it. So you have a timeline that works the whole way through. There's a point there where you also have what I call our stop go. And that means, okay, stop, we need to review it. We can't keep going with it the way it is. What does that look like? Rather than just head forward, keep doing it regardless, always have your review checkpoints. So you stop, go. Oh, our budget's looking tight. We're going to have to stop and we're going to have to make an adjustment. Okay, now we go. So make sure that you're doing all of that, and you do that collaboratively. So getting some feedback. Have it, see it work, and then if it's 16 weeks, so it's 12-week program, you've got a lead in and a wrap up. You might have a graduation, you might have someone who comes from the uni close by, or another group who go, oh, we'll run a documentary on it from start to finish. We're going to interview the kids and we're going to talk about that. This then becomes your promo piece. It's a community development activity. So there's usually other people who will want to be part of that, but you are the lead. You are the facilitator of your program, and you still have to pitch it to your boss. And they're going to have the questions like the risk management, the workplace health and safety, who's your first aid person, how are you going to send it out? And you've got to do that. Your work for this is do the pitch. And then I'm going to say to you, you have to do it as an elevator pitch, which is, how do I talk about this in 3 minutes? So if someone says, oh, Lachlan, tell me about your program, if you were stuck in an elevator, which is why they call it an elevator pitch, and someone goes, oh, tell me what you do, you've got to be able to say it between that floor and up to the floor where they're going to get off. Well, this is what I do. I run a kids program, and it's just to give them an intro, make them feel good and be part of something special. But we understand that we're working with young people who, you know, may not feel confident and quite not know what to expect. I love that idea. So who's behind you? Well, you know, our work is, but it's just a pilot project. We'd love to see this happen and be offered every year. And then I go, well, actually, I know someone who might come along. We can run a thing for you at Rotary, and we put a box in the middle of the table, and everybody puts money in the table, and we donate it to whoever comes along and is the speaker that night. So it's like, wow, I just walked out with $2,000 extra for my program, and I wasn't expecting it, and I got to share a story. They love that. So big groups like that, they're there for network and nibbles. You know, that's what they're really trying to do, is connect in their community. But they like to have that fourth pillar. So we have profit, loss, our environment, and community. So whenever you're running a program, always think of those 4 things to add into your model. So a business plan now also will have profit, loss, the environment. So what's your footprint when you're there? It's clean, neat, and tidy when you leave, all those kind of things. Go green wherever you can. And community. What legacy work are we doing and leaving there? What are these kids going to say about the program that you run in 5 years, or in 10 years, or in 15 years? So are we supposed to make a PowerPoint or a document, or is there a place we are supposed to be to write everything? Good question, Hannah. PowerPoint presentations, absolutely. So make it visual if you can, and your voice in the background. So if you aren't working with the class and you're working with just some people that you know, as long as you document it, then you've worked with a group. Okay, I'm not looking for evidence that you worked as a group. I'm looking for your documented stuff. So you can say, I had Daffy, Daisy, Minnie, Donald, you can say, and they were amazing collaborators. So we know where you're headed with this. Anna, Elsa, all the Disney princesses, if you want to, can all be your collaborators. It's hypothetical, but the actual program, I want you to connect with it. We're going to be looking for, did you collaborate? Where did you get your evidence to support that you were filling a gap? Anyway, well, we interviewed some young people. Daisy said, you know, this, and then Donald said that. So you get that feedback as if you had actually done that. All right. So we're looking for it. Even if it is hypothetical, you will know exactly how to do this. This is as close as you can get to that. So I've got a lot of people who do this qual on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, diplomas Monday night, but I will watch them work with, say they might have like an 8-year-old kid and a 10-year-old kid of theirs, and they're reading the scenarios. We're not measuring who's in there with you. If you do record someone else, we're measuring you. If you have other people, they don't have to be on camera. You know, they can be in the background. I've heard mums read scripts at the end of a dining table for somebody at the front. All we ever see is the back of mum's head. You know, I've seen a guy who was really, really uncomfortable in a role play, and I want you to kind of enjoy them, not freak out by them. But he said, I can't do it, but I can have my mum, she can read it. And I said, well, just put stuffed animals. And they had to have 4 people at a meeting. So he had a llama, a hippopotamus, a frog, and a turtle. And I mean, they were engaged. Absolutely. The whole role play. He paused. This is what I was marking on, though. He totally got it. And so he's going, good point, llama. I like where you're coming from. This is great. I'll use that. Thank you. Valuable for us to remember. And frog, yeah. No, I hear you. But listen, that's off point. We'll pick this up at another meeting, but it's important. I want to hear you. Can you see me after the meeting? And I was in that room at his meeting. It was beautiful, but he facilitated, and that's what I was marking on. So, Lindsay, question?
So basically, I don't know if Hannah's where I'm at with the assignment. So we want to role play as well as submit a PowerPoint, like the visual side of it. Like, yeah. So you're submitting 2 different things. Okay.
So you may not sync it, depends on how great your tech work is. But if you had a Zoom, you did what I'm doing and share your screen and things like that. And Zoom is free, but you only get 40 minutes. But I can tell you, we're not asking for a 40-minute recording.
Yeah, okay.
If you do, apply for a job with Hayden. We'll give you a class to run. If you can go longer than that, you're doing great. But yes, role play with PowerPoint. But I'm not going to dictate to you how. You might take it to the streets and interview people. I don't know where you're going to go with this. Okay.
And you've just got to like document how you've come up with it.
Yep. You got to show me the who, what, how, when, where.
Okay.
Why. Prove every one of those steps. So when we talk about evidence-based data, this is it. I've got to see the evidence trail. If you don't give it to me, it didn't happen, and that's a gap. And so I have 29 boxes to tick when I'm assessing this particular unit, and I'm looking for, did you collaborate? Did you present well? Did you do some research around it? Did you identify a need? How did they identify the need? Was the learner able to speak to this? These are the things that I'm not your acting ability, not your participant. It's just, I'll know the work you've put into it. So Sophie?
If we had, so if you've got like 20, if you have 29 things to mark us on and we get 28 of them, are you still going to send it back for us to redo if there's one thing missing?
No, I'll phone you up and I'll say, hey, I'm almost there with your assessment. I've got a couple of questions for you. And if you can answer them and get me over the line, and I will do it as an intentional interviewing question, which you're going to do with your clients anyway. I know what I need to ask you to get you there. And it's likely that you already have. So that you just didn't quite get it over the line. But if I'm in the space, it's exactly the same. If we do a role play in real time, or we're preparing for it, I don't want to sit in that space with you and go, you say this and I say that and you say this. That is not me knowing what your skill is like as a youth worker, because who talks to our clients like that? Nobody talks to, like, they would see through you and they would totally just go, what is this I'm doing here? Why are you talking? They would not work with us. So young people are very discerning. They want connection. They want to be engaged. They want to know you're authentic. And so you've got to take you into that space. And I'll remove all of that acting side of things, because that is not what I'm looking for. Even if you started off with and given an intro and say, look, we worked together, we had fun, we went out into the community, we did a bit of research, Hannah did this bit, and Lindsay says, I did this bit, but then when we got together, we joined them and we found we had some similarities. I want all of that in how you do your intro as well. So give it some context. And what was an unexpected thing that you discovered while you were learning that? I want that too. So if you have been involved in a program and you want to do that, if you've been in one already as a participant, or you've been involved in running it, or you were there while others were running it, write about that. I'm not looking for an original idea. I'm looking to know that you know what to do if you are going to run a program. And it's a lot easier to do it if it's something that you're interested in. So Lachlan's picking sport and food. Young people like to eat. I think that's a marriage made in heaven. I think that's a very popular program. If I feed young people, I know they're going to turn up. So food is a big thing around that as well. So can we view a role play to make sure we're on the right track? Good question. We don't have any learners role play, but I have two that might be almost ready. I can, I'll just do a reach out if Mel is in class. This learner is doing youth work, but they're also doing mental health. They're doing a dual qual with Hader. So if not tonight, and they're both on a Tuesday night. They kind of swap between one and the other. And we get them on alternate nights. So if Mel's not in, then I will ask Mel, can I share it? Because we're still in this space next week and I need consent to be able to do that. Okay, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. Who asked me that? Danny. Great idea, Danny. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll ask Mel. I'm sure that she and Brooke would be really happy. So they're your peers in this class as well. But they're a little bit further ahead, like they were already organised and ready. Tomorrow they'll probably say I've submitted and will you mark it? So absolutely. But if you've got no one to do this with and you're not sure, Helen and I will do that with you. And if that's a couple of sessions of brainstorming, we'll collaborate with you. We'll help you get it over the line. So I like to do a role play with people around your assessment and book it in. We will play the client for you if that's what you need, but I'm mostly going to find out, do you know what active listening is? Do you know what collaboration is? How do you do that? I want to see your style as a youth worker within the guidelines of whatever role play we put in front of you. Okay, so it's not about, there are no Logie Awards with this. There is no Golden Globe. Sorry, guys. There's no BAFTA and all the rest of it. But it's just bring it to that space and think about if I was talking to a group of people, because role plays do make people uncomfortable. But if you were there in real time talking to those young people, I'm sure you wouldn't be. And that's what you've got to be able to do. So once you've done this program, it'll be based on that 5,000. So for some people, that budget, you've got to actually draw up, that's the written bit, is you've got to draw up what your line expenses were. So the worker, what else are some things that you think you might need to add into a budget? Let's brainstorm that one together while we're here. So you've got 5,000 because you've done your pitch and Your boss loves it. Yes, I'll fund this. Way you go. So what are some expenses? Sophie?
Like rent, if you're renting a hall or something like that for your meeting.
Yep. So it could be rent. Yep. Materials. Yep. Insurance.
Yeah, I'd say equipment.
Yeah, equipment. Yep.
Yep.
Great. What about refreshments? Got to feed these kids. Sophie, another one? I know, all good. Gifts for guest speakers? Pen or something. I like to give guest speakers a gift. Certificates. Someone's got materials, so I get that. T-shirts. Yep, Kim, love it. They love to have a T-shirt. It's memorabilia, you know, and Threadbare will wear it a decade or two later. So yeah, great idea, Kim. It's something that belongs to them, and it's got a memory imprint with that as well. Okay, I think you've got a great idea. So if you start to cost it, so the worker probably wants to get paid, but you can beg favors and things like that. If you're going to bring in a guest speaker, then give them a little something. Photos of the event. So yeah, so someone's got to take photos. What about bus if you need to travel? Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Transport. What about a record of it? So kind of like a booklet. If Lachlan's going to do food on a budget or healthy nutrition or something, he might want to put together a recipe book that's been designed by the kids, and that's something that they get to keep for themselves. So a record of that, and get them all to sign inside it, and that's something else that they've been able to produce. So there's a lot of good knowledge in the room at the moment, but you kind of can see where you're going. So if you think, wow, 5,000 doesn't go very far, so things that you can do, which I often like to do. So we refer to that. You've still got to put it in your line item. So it's sponsorship in kind. That means it's been a donation. And so a sponsorship in kind might be the school might give you the hall. The school might use their insurance. The school, so where do we go when we want to capture or corral a whole stack of young people there? But if you're after a target group that don't go to school, then where do they gather? So this gate bowl, for us in Bundy, I know that. So if you were going to run something outdoors and there's fields there and all that kind of stuff, then council. So council would be another one. Now, they may or may not charge you a fee, but they're definitely going to want to see that certificate of currency, unless you piggyback with an organisation like First Access, who happens to have a COC, a certificate of currency. Tick. Done. Oh, and look, they've got the medical first aid kit. Amazing. Oh, the medical first aid person at First Access is volunteering to be at every one of our events. So all of these are line items. So that's what you want to be able to do. You've got to identify, and then next to it, that will be nil because it was donated or sponsorship in kind. But what are you going to produce to show that you did it? So if you've got council, then make up a fake council. But if you want to make this for real and you actually do want to launch something in your local area while you're doing your polls, or if you're working for an organisation, your council might say, we would love to have our branding there. You know, but if you're doing it hypothetically, then it's like call your council any name you want and give it a little logo, and then call it the ABC something or other. They sponsored all your t-shirts, things like that. It's hypothetical, but you may be developing. I know for the two that I'm going to ask about the presentation, if we can borrow that, I know theirs is actually genuine and they're going to launch it. Okay, so they're turning their studies into an opportunity to get the framework and some support professionally around how to actually launch a program. So for you, it might be that as well, or it might be something else. Any questions about that part? Okay, great. We're good. Drop it into chat if you like. Okay, let me just share now for you what this bit looks like here. So this particular one is task 2B and 2C of your role play for, I'm going to show the video panel. Why? I don't want to do that. What? Sorry, didn't like that one bit. I'll stop sharing. Why did that not work? Sorry, guys. It spat me out. Didn't want you to have it. That's right. Jumped over completely to a new tab. We will go straight into this space. That's all right. We still have next week. That's not actually the focus for us. We'll do the role play ones. They're separate to your presentation. Okay, for some reason it doesn't like it tonight. So just to keep in mind, you need to have a social context. So what they mean by that, what they're looking for here is, how is this going to benefit your community? These young people, think about that. Are you going to run a high profile topic? I think Emma had some great ones that she was talking about there. Or are you going to do a low profile? Learn the language around your program. So a high profile could be drug and alcohol use, domestic family violence, youth crime and gangs, public violence and crime, very topical at the moment. For your target group, it's tough for your clients. All they're hearing in the media is youth crime crisis, even though the data in your local government area, if you look at your police data on youth crime, it is dropping. But the media have turned the volume up because it's going to be a political platform. They're going to fund it because there's a certain group in our demographic who are saying, young people these days, or whatever they're saying, and they're labelled and they're judged. But young people are an easy target, what we'll often refer to as low-hanging fruit, because they don't vote. So it's very easy to diss on them because what are they going to do? Rarely do they come together as a group and have an advocacy around their own voice. It just doesn't happen. So they kind of move amongst it. But it's interesting, Amy was talking about the kids that do slide between the cracks, the quiet ones that you might think everything is okay, but they don't actually show it. So that's about 85% of young people who go to school. So it's the top 5% that will get noticed and the bottom 5%, but there is a whole group of young people in there who just navigate that space, barely making it through. So it depends if you want to catch those ones or you want to catch the high profile. The low ones is where you'll do a lot of your early intervention prevention work. So early school leavers or likely to disengage from school. So truancy, improved access to health services, road safety, you know, there's learner driver stuff, there's volunteers that sign off logbooks and that kind of thing for young people who don't have someone who has the time. PCYC run ours locally, but they're great programs. All started with an idea just like what you guys are doing. And then recreational facilities as well. So that's what a social context is. Social issues, both high and low profile, they're areas of concern. Okay, I'm not a political animal, but I also know that if we don't raise our voice of unmet needs in the community in a way, so I always call it, like I only have those conversations with listening ears. So I won't go to a political conversation or anything unless I think that person's going to fund a program or raise awareness to fund a program around it. Or, I'm not going to argue with people. I can't get money out of them if I argue with them. It's funny, people don't want to give you money if you make them feel bad. So you've got to really think about what's in it for them. And that's hard to do. But if you can touch on that, that's the social context. So the political side changes over time. So this government are going to fund this government are going to fund that. That's how you end up finding employment based on whether the government decides to fund programs that you're in, which ones. So it's depending on the governing party, economic and social factors impacting government, and global factors. So what the government will hear, listening ears, will be things where you're going to get kids off the streets, you're going to keep kids in school longer, you're going to get kids who will be involved in healthy activities, you're going to bring young people together so that they're not off doing unsupervised, unsafe, unsupported risk-taking behaviours, because it is something that young people take risk, but calculated risk, well, they don't have that cognitive development to make those decisions. And rarely will they have that 7 seconds pause to wait before they do something. They might afterwards go, that was pretty dumb what I did, but there was no thinking time there. That 7 seconds can make or break and actually impact a young person for years to come. So the economic context, like how will this be efficient use of funds? So even your manager, hypothetical, in First Access that wants to give you 5,000, still got to be value for money, because it's not First Access's money, it's actually in their budget and it's government funded. So the government will always look for these two things: efficiency and economic. So it's like, is it best bang for our buck? So will it deal with recession and depression? So even though, Lachlan, you're talking about food and things like that, if you can do it around on a budget, then you've got listening ears. You're talking to young people who have got a low income. Again, it looks after your target group. So think win-win. What's in it for them? What's in it for them? And you'll have a good wraparound program. Funding cuts are definitely in there, so you've got to be thrifty. Unemployment, so is Job Shop is what one of the local high schools does, and they just get a stack of us who go in just as guest speakers. Economic uncertainty, like financial insecurity, financial well-being, how to work on a budget, how to actually save $5,000 before I finish school. If you start doing that conversation with 12-year-olds and they go, I might be able to buy a cheap little car for $5,000. Well, break it down and show them how to do it in a program. And then we have other economic factors that impact us, like pandemic, war, natural disasters. They're the things that the government of the day will go, well, if it's to do with that, that's great. So if it's about the pandemic, it's about health and hygiene. That's the language that they want to hear. If it's about war, then they want to have a look at what's peaceful conflict management strategies, anger management, peer-to-peer. There's a really great program that Red Cross ran called Shout Out Loud. And that was about people who had a lot of anger stuck, and it was right there on the service. So we went along, we took some young people along to it. It was a great program. It was a young guy, a uni student on placement. He put the program together and he went around the schools, and Red Cross supported him in doing it. Great program. But they come and go. And so we think, oh, well, that's not around anymore. And that would have been really good if we could have still been doing that. So just know that your program won't be sustainable unless you continue to review it and fill the gaps for their local community. So the way to know that is to circle back to the beginning. What did we think about? Are we in touch with our who, what, how, when, where, and why? Or has something changed? Is there a cutback with people having money and supporting it? Are there funding cuts? And now the manager says, oh, look, I know I funded it last year, but I can't do it this year. And so a lot of people who may have, you know, some social isolation as well. So we did in small groups research local, national, global event. I would like you to do that in your own group that you're working together, or the people that you're working with. But this is about what are some other projects that are out there in the community. I've given you the name of a couple, but I want you to do a little bit of research on your own, in your own time. And it's not in your learner's guide, but it might give you some links to some programs. So there are some really good ones there. You probably know them, like YMCA and PCYC. They're the ones we know, but we also know Are You OK Day. They're all programs all started with an idea. Genes for Genes Day, SIDS, Red Nose, lots and lots of things. There was a program called, I'm not sure if it's this class or another class, but Laps for Life. It was around depression, and people will do that and they'll get someone sponsor them. So how do we build something that's sustainable? That means that we bring as many people as we can into that. So we meet what's happening in knowing our economy. I know what the disposable income per person in our population is in our region. That's how I know how to cost something that I'm going to do. So if people haven't got a lot of disposable income at the end of the year, then I need to make sure that I have value for money, or that we get enough sponsors around it so it doesn't cost a lot to be part of. But then there's also that other mindset of if people don't pay something, then they don't have a value around it as well. So, you know, whatever it is, it's your program, you run it the way that you want. So you could say to them, it's gold coin donation each week, and then you as a group are going to decide who we donate that over to. There'll be a cause that you want to do. We'll donate it back to our school and let them buy a trophy for a person at the end of the year, the ones who don't normally get it. There's a program in one of our high schools called Reach for the Stars, and that's a young person who overcomes adversity and still stayed the course. So that got sponsored. So they might give back. You know, you give them how to actually return that rather than that take, okay? Teaching them how to be good citizens. Political sustainability, so will last for longer than term 1 of government. So that means you want the next government coming in to also love your idea and keep it going. Environmental, so maybe the objective or the factor to be considered. So doing green, you might have a nursery that takes a program young people out there to learn how to propagate plants and save money, plant seeds, grow their own veggie garden, things like that. That might be something environmentally sustainable. And then the social and cultural sustainability does not damage existing social and cultural practices or heritage. So we're respectful of the space that we're working in. So it ensures communities can meet their current needs without compromising the ability of future generations meet their own needs. It is complex and multidimensional. So if I say to you, Greta Thunberg, you'll know that she started a movement around the environment, and she decided not to go to school on one particular day. So now that's spread all the way around the globe around just talking about caring for the planet. So there's a lot of other political, a lot of other media language around it, but really it was just about looking after the planet that we're living in and growing up in, and the planet that we're leaving behind for the next generation of young people. That was really the beginning of the conversation, but in the wrong hands, it can actually get out of balance. And it can disrupt things, and other people will try and discredit. If you pick a really difficult topic, think of a way, like at one of the high profile ones, think of a way that you can package it where it's comfortable. Now, I know when Hetty Johnson started out Bravehearts, it is not dinner party conversation for sponsors to talk about sexual abuse by a member of the family. So you can imagine that's a really hard sell, but a very important high profile program. but she had to do it in a way that kept that platform. Now, she's a forensic accountant, and found herself in the community sector. So her story is incredible. Her whole family story is amazing around strength, and a very, very difficult thing. But what she wanted to do was make it safe for other young people. And that's where Braveheart came from. And then it got bigger, and then it did a lot more work. It got bigger and better, very sustainable. Okay. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are around the member states adopted 17 sustainable goals. Goals address human rights. That's what you've got to do, such as poverty, hunger, education, healthcare, industry, and infrastructure. So think a little bit about, well, what else does my program do? I've got some words, but am I doing this? So here are your who, what, how, when, where, and why. But if you were doing an elevator pitch, how would I talk about it? Well, this is about healthcare. This is actually about getting work and being out in industry, and includes goals for sustainable. So how can we keep it going regardless of who the government are of the day? So I can't play that. Okay. You get the recordings for the videos embedded, but I can't play them on a recording because it breaches the copyright. So I just want to let everyone know, why don't I play videos in class? Because I don't want to record them, but you get that. It's a link when it comes out. Our class comes out to you on a YouTube, and then you get a couple of other ones. They're your videos to watch. Okay. So class discussion, first look through your booklet around that. And this is really about your media keys and how do you get your project plan. So that's for you guys when you're working on your project. So revise and update it. Like I said, just stop, go, make sure that you go back and have a look at it and go, gosh, is there something there that I should be doing? Should I go back and revisit that? And that's that part of our session. So we've talked about group dynamics, stages in group development, and week 3 we're going to bring it home, engaging in groups, facilitating group discussions and decision making, which is a lot. This is actually a pretty big program that you're working on. This is not an easy project as well, but what I want to do, answer questions. Okay, Rochelle's going, so that's great. Rochelle's saying, have a great week, everyone. And I'm leaving checkout score of 7, which is too high than the start. So that's always good. So self-reflection is a practice. How are you going to look after yourself as a worker in the field? Check in and check out. Okay, so for every single day for the last 25 years, I have checked in and checked out on my work day, no matter what. It tells me how I'm traveling. And if I'm flat, it makes me do something that I would like to do. Get some sunshine, go cat my dogs, take 10 minutes out, your well-being. That is sustainable practice so that you're still here in the long run, because not every day will be an easy day for you. So this is a kind of nice program. You know, when we start talking about suicide intervention work, it gets tricky. So programs and things like that, what most of you are coming up with is connection. Who am I and where do I fit in? That's what young people are looking for. It's really what they want. And to see something like welcome, open the circle up, allow people in, all inclusive. Okay, but have some rules. You know, you're the facilitator of what you're going to be running. So this is what's okay. This is what's not okay. So can I open it up for questions? Any questions that anyone would like me to answer in this space? I'm going to be wrapping up for everyone soon, and I'd like to be able to help.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Crystal.
Hi, thank you. First, I apologize. I did come in late, as I mentioned. Anyway, I missed the first half hour and I'm a little confused. So I will just declare to make sure I understand. I'll be doing a role play with someone or with many. Is a role play? It could be either with groups from the class or my stuffed animals. Is that?
Oh, that's where you came in. Got you. Okay,
Yeah.
so my dyslexic anxious learner went with stuffed animals. Okay.
But
Crystal,
you're
you can have people if you would like.
okay. But are we doing this individually, or are we allowed to work with, are we, that's, I'm not sure if I'm understanding. Are we working in a group with people from the class?
You
And
can.
also a role play on your own, or is it either or?
It's actually both. So there's 2 role plays. There's 2B
Okay, I'm
and,
looking.
and 2C. That's one part of this unit. Yeah, it's not 2A. Yeah. 2B and 2C. The instructions are written in your scenario. And it
Yeah,
actually gives you the scenario, and that is in front of a group, but it can be family and friends.
right. So
tells
I'm
you-
seeing part A, B, and C. Wait.
Yeah, so you're looking at this one that I'm referring to is B and C. So that is the role play scenario 2B and C, 2C. That can be done family and friends if you like, but then there's some people in class who have shared that they're going to send me an email and that they want to be part of a group, and I can put you on a wait list and connect you, but I don't facilitate and organize the groups. That's for you guys to do yourself. And when they went into a breakout room, they can share that information if they choose to. We don't get involved in it. And if you do put your email up into the chat, know that this is recorded, know that this is going outside of the people that you're sitting with in the class right now. So by doing that, you need to have informed consent.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. I'll go
So-
ahead and do that.
And
Okay.
so the other role play though, and it's a good question, and thank you for asking, is it's a presentation, and you can do the presentation on your own with other people and go out in your community. You can do it hypothetically as if you had gone out, but you need to demonstrate all the evidence that you did do that. Or you can connect with peers in your class and say, let's do it together. And I can, if there's 2 of you, then I will assess you individually.
Okay. And is that live, or do I do a video and then I upload it?
Very good. So it's a recorded, so it can be Zoom or it's MP4, which is also in your instructions.
Okay. So
You're doing a recording, but there are some people who will come to me and say, Vicky, I'm not sure about this role play stuff. You make it sound easy. You left out all the scary bits. I think I need to run through it with somebody. Then you can book it with me, and I can take other people in there. I'm happy to discuss what a role play is like. I'm even happy for you to do your role play in front of me in real time. I will assess you on the spot. If I think that there's something not quite there, I'll ask a couple of questions and get that information from you. I record it and then I send it to you, the Zoom link recording, and I sign off on it that it's done. So I've assessed it and validated it for you. And then I send it to you on a document and you upload that into your porthole as the evidence that you did do it.
got you. Okay. Thank you. That makes, at the moment, I think that answers all of my questions. I'm going to go ahead and pop in my email. Thank you for that.
That's wonderful.
Actually, when I think I jumped in. Sorry, last one. I jumped in as soon as everyone kind of broke out into the rooms, because when I got back, what was discussed in those rooms, or what was the assignment today?
I don't know what gets discussed. We don't record and I don't enter, but the key takeaways were, what were you going to do with your program? And that's all discussed. So this is a recorded class and you get to watch this recording back, and it'll tell you everything I said before people went into the breakout room, and it'll also give you the recording of what everybody brought back out again.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And there are a lot of people who start when they start, and I absolutely welcome that. And then there's a lot of people who can't be in every class every week. But it's not online training. It really is simulated classroom. So it kind of goes wherever the class is on that night. And so it is recorded, but it needs to be framed around what the assessment is, what we're asking of you. And this is a real practical one. This is like, now you're going to produce a product at the end of it, and you're going to be documenting what that looks like. So you've
Okay.
got to come up with an idea about what kind of program you would like to have. So, question, are you getting my emails? Not while I'm in class, Emma, no. And I work in the courts on Tuesday, so I'm not around on Tuesdays. So, but I do jump in on Tuesday night. So I have a look on Wednesday, any emails that might have been sent. So if someone sent me something, and I'm actually working in another project at the moment, but I will get to them if it's urgent. Otherwise, just do a booking with a trainer. Okay, Emma, we'll take that off class if that's okay, and have that discussion. You're very welcome to stay back. Sophie.
I was just reading the uploading of the role plays like PDF, and it says that we can do it via iPhone as well. Can we do that if we
Yeah.
have the right settings on there? Yeah, it doesn't have to be through Zoom.
No, absolutely not. Most people do it off their phone.
Yeah.
Just remember that you need to be with your phone, go, well, I don't know, what do you call it? Longitude.
Landscape.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
yeah.
that way. Whatever it is, it's the bottom button when I'm doing documents. I don't know. So, landscape. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the word. Yeah. So turn it on the side. That's a much better pick. Okay. Otherwise it squeezes you in tight.
Yeah.
Okay. But we can watch it all. So we watch, I did over 100 role plays in the last 2 weeks, just so that you know how much work there is with, there's a couple of thousand learners with HADA, and you in your youth work one have anywhere between 11 and 14 role plays that you must do with your qualification to demonstrate that you've got the knowledge, skills and ability to do this work when you go out, and you're going to be doing placement as well.
I was going to ask, that was another question I had about are there role plays in each module? So that's pretty much answered.
Pretty much,
yeah,
yes.
almost all.
Even in the workplace health and safety one, there is as well, so which is interesting. But when I deliver that one, I actually have an orange vest and a hard hat, so I get right into it, that class. So, because words are safe as well. It's not just physical things, it's language in the workplace. So that's, they all have a role play pretty much, but we need to know that you feel comfortable and confident. And so we're not looking for stellar performances. We're just looking for you going through the process. Like if someone makes notes and they're referring to them in their recording, I love that. That just means you planned for it and you're referring back. And if you think you forgot something, you can go, I just want to circle back to this one because it's important. I only touched on it lightly, but then go back to your notes. That's fine. Just be human in that space and go through it. If you need a list of things and tick them off, then go ahead and do that. Okay. It's about the process more than a performance, but some people are really confident in that space. I think one guy did his presentation he's a musician and he did a rap song and he wrote it based on diversity. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved it, but he used the method that he was most comfortable with, and he wrote the script out, all the lyrics to the song, and he nailed it. He hit every one of those things that we were looking for, and he delivered it, which was, I loved it. And I thought, wow, this is great. So, but I definitely will take on board, here's one we prepared earlier, as well. So HADA do have a resource which is about role plays that I've done with another trainer, and it was very improv, but we just said this is what we do as assessors. So there is a resource there. If you can't find it in your learner portal with communications, just email me and I'll get it and I'll send it to you. And with it, there's also the checklist on how to upload if you're not sure about that. It's in your portal, but these things can get a little bit tricky to find. And if I can make that easier for you, then just send me an email and say, hey, Vicky, can you send me the resources for role plays? So it's just a recording of Helen and I talking as assessors. This is what we look for. This is what we mark. We bounce it around. Then Helen goes, oh, let's do one. So then Helen decides to be a client and I have to be the worker. So it's completely unprepared. So she comes in, gives me a scenario, we're making it up on the spot. So you'll see it's not about best performance, it's about us just listening and responding and giving verbal cues like, oh, I get it. Okay, so what would that look like? Who, what, how, when, where, why? You'll see it in all my open-ended questions when we're there. So the story will change, but the framework stays the same. And that's what you're really strengthening your skills. When you go for employment, you go for a job, you'll already be talking the language, and that'll make a huge difference. I'll try and get one of my other learners into this space if I can, or two of my learners actually, or I'll try and record them and just get them to give you a bit of a journey of halfway through their studies, how they use that language, how they went for job interviews, how they secured those jobs, all because they were studying this topic. And so the gap between you working in something you want to work and you studying isn't actually as wide as what you think it is, because you already have skills. You're just bringing them over into this space. Okay. And also, as far as things like work placement and stuff like that, get ready with your working with children card. Get started on that, because it can take, depending on where you live, 6 to 8. You can get a free one as a student with HADA if you meet the eligibility. So you can request from HADA, your learner support team, the people who you originally speak to at HADA, you can say, can I please get a letter that says that I am a student? So it's a proof of enrollment. But you got an enrollment letter from HADA. If you can't find it, you can ask for it again, where it'll say, I am a student and I'm currently studying this, and you're with HADA. So a volunteer card or blue card is free, and so is a student card. And if you get work, you're already ready. The only difference is you move from an S or a V on your card to a P, which is paid. But you're already in the system, and it's just X amount of dollars, and they just often the employer will do it, or you just pay that's tax deductible. Okay, they're the sorts of things that can prep you and get you ready. So any other questions about this unit? First of all, some good questions. So fresh eyes and fresh ears, coming in a little bit behind. Yeah, so Crystal, if you could please, I won't monitor this, but you're putting, so Crystal's putting her email up there like others have given consent to do. And Crystal, you can also email me. And if I've got someone that goes, look, I didn't want to put my email up there, but I contacted you, which I thought was a really great suggestion. If you send that to me, I will pass it on. I'll matchmake you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and email you. Definitely just with my email, that is.
Either or is fine. Someone may pick it up and you won't need me to assist. But I will definitely, so there's my email in there, Crystal. If you send that to me and say, hey, I'm looking to be part of a group, then I will just put a group together. And if I've got a group of 4, I think that's big enough. And then if you need that and you say this is when we'd all like to meet, you can talk, come back to me, communicate with each other. That's all with you guys. And just think about trying to mix your group up a little bit. You know, like different people bring different things into that space as well. So the quiet ones who don't usually say much in class, I just want to say, usually are listening and observing, and actually have some really good ideas. So they're just gathering evidence. They're not quiet. But if we say, you know, like try and mix it with diversity for yourself as well. Try and get someone who's maybe showing a skill that you don't have or something. Just get out of your comfort zone a little bit as well, or connect and you know, speed through. It can be a group of 2, but it can also be people, your family, friends. And if you think I would like some guidance and a little more coaching, all you've got to do is email me, and Helen, the other trainer, and I will jump in and we will be your crew. Okay, or if you've got a group going and you go, we just want to know if we're up to our stop go, can we invite Vicky in? Then just let me know when you're doing that. And if I've got availability, then I will send out a Zoom link, send it to everybody, and I will jump in that space. Okay, and I'll just pop in for 15 and give you some help with it. Okay, so know that everybody has 1 hour a month that they can tap into with Hader, and a lot of people will do 30 minutes every fortnight. So you have that as a learner, one-on-one individual coaching only about your assessments. So as much as I could counsel and do things like that, I definitely cannot do that. It's outside the scope of my role. And I'm not employed by Hader as a youth worker. I'm employed as a trainer and an assessor, even though that might be what I do each day, every day. So you just get the knowledge from industry, not necessarily those skills applied in that space. But do I have an understanding about variations of learning? Absolutely. And if you say this is difficult or challenging, I will make reasonable adjustments for you. Okay. Hence the stuffed animals all turning up at a meeting. We just came up with a great idea and he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It was an amazing talk. So, so really, I'm just looking to see if you can hit that checklist for me. So, but yeah, Sophie, good question around if we don't quite get there, will we help you? 100%. Yeah. I wouldn't be sending back a role play. What would I send back in a role play is if there was nothing there. If we go, hey, there's nothing there, there's no role play. But if you do something in real time with me and you say, I don't want it recorded, 100%, you don't have to. You can have it assessed in real time and we don't have to record it. And I give you a document that says this was assessed by me in real time on this date. And I mark it as pass. So lots of varied ways Hader can do the individualized way for you. So I just wanted to remind you, some of you who are just fairly new to the program, or some who are up to this place wondering, what does that look like for me at the other end? And I'm doing this recording because there's some learners who don't join us in class time, though they really give feedback and value your discussion. So I want to thank you for having these great questions, bringing them into this space and sharing your ideas, because it's very relevant for some other people who can't be here in real time. So before I wrap up for you guys, I'll stay back and I'll do a bit more of the PowerPoints and break that down a little bit for you. And I'll find that sneaky document that wasn't there. And that'll help Crystal too around the other role plays and the instructions. But are there any other questions I can help with?
I actually just had one more quick one.
Oh.
It's really about the first access. I'm just looking at it. So I'm going onto the website. I put in the username and password, but is this where I'm supposed to be finding the research behind my idea of the program I want to run?
No, it all comes from you.
Oh, then what is first access?
First access is your hypothetical pretend staff dashboard. So you need to have policies and procedures. They exist inside that site. So First Access is an organization, hypothetical, that has forms, it has agendas, it has feedback forms, it has minute templates, it has policies and procedures, it has code of conduct, it has consent forms and referral forms, all the tools that you're going to need that I ask you to produce as your evidence.
Right. Okay. So I take it as a template and then I make it and that's what I'm presenting.
You fill it in. Well, if it's sending you to First Access, it'll tell you what you need to get from that site. So read your questions, and that's really important. Go to your original question so that you have a good understanding of what it's asking of you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
every role play has an instruction. And if at the first part it says you'll need to go into First Access, here is your ID, Hader Institute, and here is your passcode, Hader 123456. There, crack the code. So
Gotcha.
it's simple and easy. I would save that in a document because you will be in and out of that site with every single assessment that you do.
Gotcha. Okay, will do. I'll
It's
save
really
it as a favorite.
Really good site, Crystal, but on the same hand, it does tend to be, see Sophie, it does tend to be a little bit aged care-ish. But don't be concerned about that because the framework, legislation, guidelines are the same. Thanks, Kim. Have a good week.
Okay, so it's a resource
Yeah,
for our role plays, but going out into the real world, it's also just a guide to what to expect.
it is. It's
Okay.
everything is Ty.
Hey, I was just about to start going back with some of my assessments and the mental illness research report.
Okay.
It says maximum 700 to 1200 words, and I'm just wondering what's the word count kind of meant to be on that for each
Okay.
question.
Great. So what I might do, just bear with me one moment. So what I'll do is I'll, because it's not about this unit and I do want to answer the question, what I'll do is I will wrap up the recording for the night for everybody and I'll keep it unit by unit because I know we have rolling starts and I didn't want to talk about another unit other than the one, just in case some of the people in this recording aren't aware. But Ty, I'm jumping straight into it. So I'll say goodnight to everybody in our recording. I'm still here, but if you've got any questions, I hope that we've given you the information. Please reach out if you are stuck. Otherwise, keep going with your assessments and we will give you feedback. If you submit and you don't quite get it over the line, there's feedback in the feedback link for you as well. Just look along the bottom, right beside where it says upload evidence, there's a feedback box. Click on that and one of the markers will tell you. So I'll say goodnight. We'll see you next week for 3 of 3 of the same unit.